Okay, thank you very much. My name's Bill Mistretti. I'm CEO and co-founder of Dockside Brewery. Just wanted to introduce ourselves to you tonight and tell you a little bit about ourselves. As a kind of precursor, as Ray mentioned earlier, we were part of the fast pitch competition here late in March this year. Understandably, we did not win. However, that was 2 weeks after St. Patrick's Day, and I know nobody wants to talk about beer 2 weeks after St. Patrick's Day in Savannah. Let's see if I can get this to go. There it goes. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about our business, our history, status, the market competition, the strategy, the business drivers and risks, management, financials, and of course, most importantly to any investor, the funding requirements and the return on investment. Okay, a little bit about us. We are Dockside Brewery. We're opening the first craft brewery that will be open in this area. There have been other breweries in this area. We know there's a brew pub in this area. Understand, we are not a brew pub. We are not selling food. We don't want waitresses. We don't have a bar. We are a commercial craft brewery. We're just like Sam Adams. We're just like Sweetwater out of Atlanta. We're just like a number of other craft breweries. We don't sell food. We just sell beer. Secondly, Savannah is already known as a destination for good food. Look at Paula, Bobby, the rest. It is also a great place to, let's say, let your hair down about halfway through March, as we discussed earlier. Savannah is a drinking destination. So is Hilton Head, so is Charleston. These are party spots on the southeast coast, and we want to be part of that. We want to be the craft beer. We want to be the regional beer. We want to be the go-to guys in this region. And that's what we intend to be. We're opening a craft brewery right here in the Coastal Empire. We're actually 6 miles outside of Chatham County in Rankin, right on Highway 21, just up the road from where I went to high school. Milestones to date. We are a C corporation in the state of Georgia. We've already established a strong line of superb ales. This is not only traditional ales, but also stouts, cervezas, and some really distinct holiday ales, which I'll get into later on. We've already secured our warehouse space. This is 12,000 square feet in Rankin. And we have already talked to and secured distributors. And we have already spoken to and secured a number of direct sales outlets within the geographic region that we're talking about. We'll go into this a little bit further, but we will be distributing as far away as China, Southeast Asia, specifically Siam, Thailand, Vietnam, and a few others. Our revenue model. Of course, as a brewery, we depend on distributors. We've already spoken to distributors in a number of geographic regions within our market. This is the Low Country of South Carolina, Coastal Georgia, and North Florida markets. We've spoken to 2 that want to use us as a flagship brand within these areas, specifically Hilton Head and Charleston, South Carolina, as well as Atlanta, Georgia. These are small distributorships that want to use us as their flagship beers for these areas. We also feel that we can probably secure a really beneficial relationship within the Savannah and Coastal Georgia regions of Georgia. And in North Florida, where there is not a craft brewery, we think that we can have a very strong presence. We also will have, of course, direct sales where it is legal, and there are very strict guidelines on the amount of barrels and the geographic distribution we can have for direct sales in the local markets due to Georgia and South Carolina policy. However, we have a compliance officer that has already signed on board with us who is encyclopedic when it comes to these type of regulations. As far as contract brewing goes, we already have one beer distributorship or one beer company that is based out of the Washington, D.C. area who wishes to get out of their current contract brewing situation and move in with us as soon as we're up and operational. Hence, we will be brewing all the beer for this beer company and helping them distribute it. We also have miscellaneous sales. This includes t-shirts, brewery tours, swag, as well as an interesting proposal we have from a group that wants us to provide unfermented wort. This is unfermented beer to their brew pubs throughout the country so they can have a consistent quality product to ferment at their own locations and produce brew pub beer. I'll be more than happy to speak about that on an individual level later on. Let's talk about the passion. Here it is. If we were making t-shirts, we talk about t-shirts. If we're making socks, we talk about socks. And I'm really sorry nobody told me that I could bring more beer than this, but we have a few of them with us. The passion and everything else, this is the beer that we produce. We actually are currently producing 11 different beers, and we have already taken these through beta stage, and we've already gone up to commercial brewing as contract brewing on test cases to make sure that all of our beers scale well. Our main lineup consists of 6 different beers. They are, in no particular order, Hopped Up, which is Old English Ale. This is an English ale that consists of 4 different hops. It is very smooth. However, it does not have an overload of hops, even though there are 4 different hops within it. It follows the consistent European model of beers where there is balance between the hops, the malt, and the yeast, where you get different and distinct flavor profiles throughout. We have Moon Pie, our chocolate cream stout. This is a very creamy chocolate stout, very clear, or for a stout that is, with very low residuals, no bitterness, and a slight coffee undertone. You have Hasty Days Hefeweizen, which looks like it's going to be, through all our target market groups, our flagship beer for this area. This is a Hefeweizen / wit beer that we brew with extra citrus zest, so you don't need to add fruit to it, adding a very light, airy, fruity beer that really transports well and tastes great on a hot Georgia day. You have Hailstorm. This is our Belgian Imperial Ale. It's a 9.4 ABV. We had to have one that was a little heavy and a little hard. It's also a little hoppy because we add 5 hops to this one, including dry hopping it after fermentation. This is a bit heavy again, and we like to, oops, I went back somehow. Hold on one second. If I can go back. Our Hailstorm is the one that is our, no I can't, it's okay. Our Hailstorm is our one that you don't really want to drink too many of. Lastly, no, actually we have 2 more on our main lineup. We have AAA, which is our Amber Ale, a traditional Amber Ale. Back, there it is, thank you. Our Amber Ale, which is a traditional Amber Ale with mild bitterness, that is a very well-balanced ale. And then we have the one that we have gotten the most controversy, but we've also sold the most t-shirts, bumper stickers, and refrigerator magnets. It's Anal Probe. Yeah, everybody has to have one. This is our controversial product. It's a traditional jalapeno cerveza. Actually, it's non-traditional. It's a cerveza, traditional cerveza that we brew with jalapenos. It's low ABV. It's very refreshing until you finish swallowing it. And then you get that burn in the back of your throat. We've never had anybody who's taste tested that had finished more than 4 or 5 of have to tell you, we like it that way. We have people as far away as California requesting that we send them cases of this because their fraternity brothers have to try it. And we have people that want to know if they can give a growler to their boss at Christmas time just so they can post on Facebook that they gave their boss an anal probe. As far as our seasonal lineup goes, we have Rabbit Squirrel, which is a nut brown ale. We have Siren Song, which is a blonde Abbey ale based off of a 17th century Abbey recipe for a blonde ale. We have Death by Chocolate, which is a Wendy's Frosty milkshake with alcohol in it. It smells like a milkshake, it tastes like a milkshake, and 3 or 4 of them, and your Christmas party has really changed. We have our Oatmeal Cookie Stout, which is a traditional oatmeal stout that we brew with vanilla beans, cinnamon, and nutmeg directly in it. Smells and tastes just like an oatmeal cookie. And then we have what's going to be our 1-year anniversary ale, which is Georgia on My Mind, which is a peach ale with pecans as well as sugar cane in the brewing. Okay, let's talk about the market. Up here you see the 2010 and 2011 craft beer growth. We're talking about a 32% growth in craft beer in the last 2 years alone. This year is already projected to grow more than 20% the craft beer market. This is as far as dollars go. Yet here in Savannah and the low country of South Carolina, there's not a craft brewery. Yes, there's a brew pub. Yes, there are people reselling packaged and commercially produced craft beers that are not local, but there is not a craft brewery here. If you go to any bar in Savannah, Hilton Head, Charleston, yeah, Charleston has Palmetto, but I'm not going to talk about them just yet. Or in southern Georgia, there's not a craft brewery that they're talking about. The nearest thing they're talking about is Sweetwater out of Atlanta, and anybody who grew up in Georgia, like myself, in South Georgia, Atlanta's not part of that market.
You've seen it, huh?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And U.S. craft beer sales in 2011 had a market share of 5.7% of the volume and 9.7% of the dollars. We all know that craft beer costs a lot more than Bud Light or Natty. Let's look at Georgia's craft beer market. There's one brewery, really. Maybe 2. You have Sweetwater Brewing Company out of Atlanta. They're producing a little over 1 million cases of beer a year for $15 million. You have Atlanta Brewing Company producing about $1 million worth of revenue and 82,000 cases. That's only 6,000 barrels. And when people talk about Savannah and craft brewing, they talk about what? They talk about Moon River. It's 1,000 barrels of beer a year. That's barely enough to sustain them in their own little bar down there on Bay Street. They do provide a few for other breweries, other bars, but not much. Okay? Then you look at South Carolina. Yeah, Thomas Creek, and the big one out of South Carolina everybody talks about is, what? Palmetto. Palmetto is barely producing, they're not even producing, double the production that our little brew pub on Bay Street is producing every year. We're looking to come into the area and own low country of South Carolina, coastal Georgia, Savannah, and northern Florida because these numbers don't own anything. This is where we want to be. This is our sweet spot. We want to be 6 feet deep in low country of South Carolina and coastal Georgia. We don't want to be 6 inches across. We don't want to, and we don't have the grandiose idea of having, distribution in 12 states in 5 years. We don't want to do that. We want to be the local beer. We want every bartender in this area, when they have a customer that's coming in from Toledo, Ohio, asking what's the local beer, to say Dockside. And that's who we want to be. The competition, there again, we have Moon River right here in Savannah. It's a brew pub, limited external sales. We have Sweetwater, which is out of Atlanta. They have the additional cost of shipping all the way down here to coastal Georgia, and they don't distribute much through the low country of South Carolina or into the northern Florida market at all. And we have the national brands. That's right, we have the 100 of national brands that Anheuser-Busch and Miller Distributing try and push on every single bar, every single day. But they don't have the competitive advantage that we have. Additionally, once they're in that kind of space, do they really have the taste of the true craft breweries? Or do they all kind of seem the same, just like Budweiser, Miller Lite, and everyone else has? And there we go. Dockside Brewery strategy. We want to focus on our target markets. We want to own coastal Georgia, Savannah, Hilton Head, Charleston, and Jacksonville. We want to capture 10% of that market. And when you look at it, craft beer owns 12% of just about every market these days. And that's fine. We want to end up owning 10% of the local market. 10% of the local market in these areas with these generated revenues is a multi-million-dollar facet. And we have a projected 4-year revenue of about $9.2 million. The problems we solve, and yes, beer solves more problems than I hate my boss and I dislike my job, or my wife's upsetting me. There are a lack of craft breweries in this area. There's an increased demand every year for craft beer. And tourists come in, and the number one questions they ask, and you can find this out at your local bar, what is the local craft beer? And here in Savannah, huge tourist market, there's not an answer for that other than, well, we have this stuff out of Atlanta. This is our timeline. I just included it because we call it our 12 easy steps to world domination. As you see, we want to own the market. We want to be the local beer here. And we've included the local regional dates that are important. Of course, March 17th. Then there's, of course, April at the RBC Heritage up in Hilton Head. The last Saturday in October, which is that game between the Bulldogs and the Gators. And the last Saturday in November, which everybody hates everybody, the Georgia Tech game. And there's also Labor Day weekend here in Savannah, which is Craft Beer Festival. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the management team. I'm Bill Mastretti. I'm a local Savannian, 3rd generation. Born here, raised here, high school here, left to make my fortune elsewhere, and 24 years later, I'm coming back. I like to tell people that I spent 22 years in technology, and that forced me to be an alcoholic, and therefore I had to make a living at it. We have Aubrey Brooke, our COO. She's a former senior project manager for multi-million-dollar corporate entities, and with experience in marketing and sales. We have Jeff Walker. He's our brewmaster. He owned a craft brewery in Lake Tahoe area. With Stacy Fudge, our compliance officer, dual master's degrees, 1 MBA. Has been working on corporate compliance as well as government contracting for more than 22 years. And we have Trevor Stelson, our director of sales. He managed more than 400 strategic accounts in the greater Portland area, specializing in craft beers. Our financial highlights are pretty self-evident. Now, of course, we have to say that we'll probably be running a net operating loss for the first 2 years, which gives us a great tax advantage in the later 3 years. And we're just saying this because we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. We'd rather underpromise and overdeliver. And our cash flow analysis. Again, It matches up with what we were saying. It'll probably take 16 to 18 months till we're actually generating a profit. The most important thing for investors is how you're going to make your money, and here it is. We are, of course, looking at shareholder return. We are offering 5% return on investment quarterly. That's on net profits. And the founder's share, which is 35% of the company, we will not be receiving any return on investment or profit sharing for the first 3 years. Anyone other than the founders who invest in the company, we're offering the full 5% of net profits. And the founder share will be distributed amongst those other investors. We're seeking $2.43 million, which puts us in the technology sweet spot, not the manufacturing sweet spot in which we are. And we're offering an equity of 65% to make that happen. We have a post-money valuation of 3.9. Well, actually, that's 3.7 to 3.9, depending on which calculation you use. And we're looking at investors who will receive a quarterly dividends of 5% net profit, a proposed investor return of the end of year 4 at $6.5 million for their 2.438 investment, with a cash-on-cash investor return of 2.68%, or multiple. Again, I'm Bill Mastretti. I hope everyone has my information. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.